Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into something really fascinating and honestly an often unspoken part of human psychology. So to kind of set the stage, let's think about this striking scene from a film. Imagine a woman, super successful, powerful, right?
Okay.
CEO of a major tech company. Life looks perfect, husband, kids, the whole deal. Now, picture her on her knees. Not for a business deal, not even for her husband.
Right.
She's there for a young intern. And she's licking milk from a bowl he left for her.
Yeah.
And the key thing here is the film doesn't play this as just a fetish or some kind of game. It feels deeper, almost primal.
It really does. That scene's from Bad Girl, and you're right, it's shocking on one level, but what's maybe even more interesting is how much it seems to resonate, how familiar it feels to people, even if they don't talk about it.
Exactly.
So that brings us to the core question for this deep dive, really. Why? Why might someone who seems to control everything in their life secretly crave total submission? What's going on underneath? What are these really intense, maybe suppressed desires telling us about ourselves? Is it more than just shame? Could it actually be, a vital message from deep within our own psyche?
That's such a powerful way to frame it. And our sources really explore this, often using a character, let's call her Romy, as a kind of case study.
Okay.
So she's described as this perfect strategist, right? Hugely successful in business, a dedicated mother. But, and here's the paradox, her intimate life, especially with her husband, feels, well, empty. Almost emotionally dead, as one source puts it.
Yeah, that emotionally dead description is telling. There's this void.
Right, that spark, that connection, it's just gone.
And what's really compelling is how that void gets filled. This young intern who's described as simple, instinctive. He's not just a lover, he steps into something much bigger, almost an archetypal role.
Archetypal, how so?
Well, if we think in Jungian terms, he kind of represents her shadow.
A shadow, right. Remind us what that means.
So the shadow is basically all the parts of ourselves we've pushed away or denied. Our raw instincts, maybe intense emotions, that sort of untamed wildness. Stuff that doesn't quite fit with who we think we are or who society expects us to be. For someone like Romy, this intern embodies all that, the wild, the bodily, the emotional, even the irrational side she's kept locked down in her super controlled life.
So connecting with him is like connecting with that hidden part of herself.
Exactly. And that's why it's so incredibly exciting for her, because it feels alive, maybe for the first time in a very long time.
Okay, but if she suppressed this wild side for so long, isn't there a risk in it coming out in such an extreme way? I mean, it makes you wonder how much of our public selves are built on pushing down these really basic human needs.
It absolutely does. And that leads us to the why behind this whole dynamic. Think about it. A woman who is constantly managing, leading, juggling emotions, kids, crises.
Yeah, the mental load is immense.
Right. She's the one holding it all together, supporting everyone, making the decisions day in, day out. If that's your reality, maybe your body, your psyche just desperately craves surrender.
To let go.
Yeah. To be led for once. Not to think, not to carry the weight, not to be responsible for everything.
So it's not about being weak.
Not at all. It's about being alive, finding balance. Sexuality often becomes this unique space where we feel safe enough to take off the armor,
So for someone who always has to be strong, the one in charge, surrendering is actually a kind of release, letting go of that constant pressure to perform.
Precisely. And if we look at the bigger picture, the soul or the psyche, whatever term you prefer, it seeks wholeness.
Wholeness, meaning?
Integrating all those different parts of ourselves, the strong part, yes, but also the vulnerable part, the rational and the instinctive. Becoming a complete, authentic person.
Okay.
And sometimes that journey towards wholeness leads us down paths that look, well, maybe destructive from the outside, or involve moments where you feel completely helpless.
But in those moments,
the woman feels she doesn't have to be strong anymore. And that feeling can be incredibly powerful. It's not masochism we're talking about here. It's really an attempt to reclaim a lost piece of herself.
a yearning to feel whole, not just strong.
Exactly. Her body is almost saying thank you for letting go of that constant control, because other parts of her, the parts that don't fit the successful woman mold, have been suffering.
And this compensation idea, it isn't just limited to sexual fantasies, right? It can play out in real relationships too.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes subtly. You see these really successful, capable women drawn to partners who maybe from the outside seem demeaning, or maybe they earn less or don't show obvious respect.
Yeah, and you wonder what's the pull?
There's often this deep underlying dynamic. First, That partner might actually mirror the woman's own suppressed parts.
What do you mean?
Like, maybe a very free-spirited, less driven man helps her connect with her own hidden desire for freedom, for less structure. It helps her feel more complete,
I
paradoxically.
think that's it.
And second, by sort of falling into a situation of maybe emotional dependence, or even just allowing herself to be less in charge in the relationship dynamic, she unconsciously gets to offload some of that immense pressure of always being decisive, always responsible. It's kind of relief.
A relief, even if the relationship itself looks problematic.
It can be, yes. It's a complex way the psyche tries to get its needs met, to feel seen, and maybe even love for a part of herself that's usually hidden.
So if our partners can mirror these needs, it really suggests that dominance or submission, whether it's in the bedroom or just in the relationship dynamic, these can be like diagnostic signs, signals of deeper stuff going on.
Absolutely diagnostic signals, which raises the question, okay, what are they signaling? Let's look at both sides.
Okay.
On one side, if someone constantly needs to dominate sexually, it can often point to a feeling of powerlessness or a lack of true fulfillment in their everyday life.
So like they don't feel influential at work or in other areas.
Maybe. Or they don't feel their strength is recognized. Sexuality then becomes maybe the only place where they feel they have real impact, real strength. There's a disconnect there.
Okay, that makes sense. And the flip side,
Mm-hmm.
people drawn to submission.
Well, conversely, if someone finds themselves repeatedly allowing humiliation or enduring poor treatment or just really struggling to assert their boundaries, it often indicates a part of themselves is being suppressed elsewhere.
How so?
It becomes a form of compensation. If you simply cannot allow yourself to be weak or vulnerable during the day, maybe because of immense responsibility or social pressure, then your body, your intimate life, might start demanding that expression at night.
The body speaks for the soul, in a way.
You could put it like that, yeah. When the conscious mind ignores or suppresses needs, the deeper self finds other ways to make them known. Often through intimacy. Think about, say, a man who feels invisible or undervalued in his daily life. In bed, he might become this really dominant figure, not necessarily out of aggression, but as a way to finally feel some influence, some control, some sense of his own significance, even if it's just for that moment.
Wow. Okay, so that brings us to a really crucial point then. These fantasies, whether of submission or dominance, they aren't just random whims.
Not at all.
They're profound messages coming from the unconscious, almost like suppressed anger or shame or trauma trying to find an outlet. And sex becomes that outlet.
Very much so. It can be a sublimation, yeah. For men, as we touched on, it often seems to be about reclaiming a sense of power. For women, quite often, it's about allowing a return to vulnerability, a release from that burden of responsibility.
Interesting distinction.
And sometimes, deeper unconscious patterns are at play, like maybe an unresolved Oedipal dynamic, where a dominant partner unconsciously represents a harsh parent figure you could never soften up to.
Wow, so you're replaying old dynamics.
Potentially, yeah. Reliving that history, but maybe in a space that feels contained, perhaps safer within intimacy. Psychoanalytic ideas suggest these early relationships really can shape our adult desires in ways we don't always realize.
And this dynamic, this intensity,
Yeah.
you mentioned it can become an addiction. That sounds quite alarming.
It can become addictive. There's this powerful psychological equation that sometimes kicks in. Shame plus prohibition equals dopamine equals addiction.
Unpack that a bit. Shame plus prohibition.
Think about the thrill, the charge you might get from doing something considered wrong or taboo. That defiance itself, breaking a rule, even an unspoken one.
Right, it's exciting.
Exactly. It triggers a reward response in the brain. Dopamine floods in. And that makes the forbidden thing incredibly compelling, potentially hard to resist. It creates this cycle.
So it's not purely about the physical pleasure.
Often, it's much more than that. It's about that intense feeling of being truly seen, ignited, feeling intensely real and alive in that moment. And that feeling, well, it can become very hard to live without, which can sometimes lead to losing other parts of yourself outside that specific dynamic.
That's a really profound point. Seeking not just pleasure, but existence, authenticity. It brings us back, doesn't it, to that universal human drive for wholeness. Our psyche is always trying to integrate all these different parts of us, sometimes through the light, sometimes through the shadow, maybe even through relationships that look complicated or messy from the outside. Our whole being is striving for that integration.
And I think a really key takeaway here is this. If you notice a strong need for submission or maybe dominance emerging in your sexuality, Try not to judge it immediately.
Oh.
See it instead as an invitation, a call for some deep self-inquiry. Ask yourself, okay, what part of me is trying to come back here? What am I missing out on during the day? What am I desperately trying to reclaim or maybe experience for the first time at night?
It's not about good or bad, strong or weak.
Exactly. It's about giving yourself profound permission to be your whole self, honoring all those facets, even the ones we've maybe tried to hide away for a long time.
You know, this deep dive, it really isn't just about sex at the end of the day, is it? It's about these incredibly intricate, complex ways our whole system tries to find balance.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful reminder that we're all this blend, aren't we? Light and shadow, rational thought, and deep, deep instinct.
Absolutely. And here's maybe a final thought to leave you with. What if you acknowledged your shadow? What if you could talk openly, maybe with a partner, maybe just honestly with yourself about your desires? What if you accepted your needs for vulnerability? Those times, you just don't have to be the strong one. You might actually find less need to swing to those extremes in your intimate life. Instead, maybe sexuality becomes a space for real self-connection, a place to explore and integrate all of who you are, rather than a place you risk losing yourself. Maybe the ultimate deep dive isn't just into a topic like this, but it's into ourselves daring to ask what our own hidden desires are trying to tell us about who we truly are and who we could become.